But this evening, we have Samantha Taggart with us, and she is going to be talking about UVA's Morven Farm. And I have sent you a great deal of information about Morven, so I'm not going to repeat it all. You have seen it. I've done it multiple times. But it is one of the most unique gifts ever to a public institution. I mean, stop and think about 7,219 acres. I don't know if I have that number exactly right, but the original gift was 7,219 acres, of which a substantial portion was sold off so that there will be an endowment or funds to support the farm for the rest of our lives, for eternity. How does that sound? There is eternity. So Samantha is the kitchen garden manager, and she has a great deal of experience with the Morven Farm, and she's going to talk about not only the kitchen farm, but the summer internship opportunities that are there. But you also need to know that Samantha is an environmental thought and practice major here at UVA. She is a fourth-year student. So there is much you can do while you are a student here. So she is a living example of all the wonderful things that you can be involved in during your career here. So I'm going to turn this over to Samantha. She's got a wonderful PowerPoint. We're going to dim the lights for purposes of the video. So Sam,
Thank
class
you.
is yours.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to be talking about the Kitchen Garden and the Summer Institute with all of you guys. I hope you'll find it interesting and maybe something that you might want to pursue during your time here at UVA. So first, before we get into that, what is Morven? I know you said a little bit about it, but I want to give a little bit more history. It was historically known as the Indian Camp, and it has a long history of land ownership. It's been passed around, or really like sold multiple times. It was purchased in 1795 by Thomas Jefferson himself, TJ himself, for his friend and private secretary, William Short. William Short was his private secretary when Thomas Jefferson was ambassador in Paris in 1786 to 1789, and he was his longtime friend. So can you imagine a friend of yours purchasing you a 2,000, 3,000 acre farm? Pretty good friends there. It was passed down by several landowners after that as a working farm and estate. And the last owner of the property, John Kluge, who I'm not sure how many people here have heard of John Kluge before. So just a couple. So John Kluge was the founder of MediaStar Corporation and pretty much like a multi-billionaire, one of the richest men in America, I guess in the 1990s. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2005. But before he passed away, he donated the Morven property as well as 11 other farms around the area to UVA, amounting to an overall 7,379 acre land gift, a huge gift to the university. And like you said, UVA sold off about 4,500 of those acres to establish an endowment to keep the property running, because as you can imagine, that's a hefty piece of property to keep running. And UVA currently retains about 3,000 of those acres, of which another 500 or so are being cultivated by a corn and soybean farmer in the area. And we're actually, it's a little premature to talk about this, but that's also in transition. We might be able to reclaim that land and make it into really regenerative, productive soils. And so today, Morven is a unique venue for interdisciplinary collaboration, research, professor retreats or class retreats, and critical thinking. Morven is located about 20 minutes from UVA, right near Monticello and Ashland. Have any of you guys been out to Carter's Mountain? Okay, great. That's a great place to go while you're here. So if you go a little farther past Carter's Mountain, you'll hit Monticello, which you all must go to several times before you graduate. And then go further than that, you hit Ashlawn, which is I've actually never been there, so I can't tell you have to do that, but, and then you get to Morven. So they're all sort of connected, which is cool. So now I'm going to discuss the kitchen garden, which is I really like talking about the kitchen garden. I am the kitchen garden manager right now, which basically means I'm in charge of coordinating student volunteers in the garden and carpools and garden events. We recently had a zucchini bread making party, and we have sweet potato pie baking events, and it's a fun time. Basically, whatever we're harvesting in bulk, we'll make it into a party and have cider, and it's really fun. And so the Student Kitchen Garden is a garden located on a plot that was originally cultivated for John Kluge. And the garden offers a hands-on learning opportunity to study food production cycles, design sustainable agricultural technologies, and develop a better understanding of the social, environmental, and economic implications of our daily food choices. It's just an awesome place to really bring whatever it is that, if you guys are interested in sustainable agriculture, food systems, it's a great place to bring a potential research project. That's how the garden was started in the first place. A friend of mine, Michelle Ramey, had this idea to start a larger garden than the community garden. Do you guys know about the community garden a little bit? That's at the corner. You guys probably go to Newcomb more often than you go to O'Hill, but at the corner of McCormick and Alderman, we have the community garden, which is probably a little less than a quarter of an acre. So we're quite a lot bigger in scale. For the community garden, I have a lot of friends who work there, and it overlaps a lot with our garden, since it's just a bunch of people who like to grow plants and get their hands dirty. So anyway, the kitchen garden was initiated by students, like I said, for students, and it serves both the university and the greater Charlottesville community as a site for learning and growing. We have a beehive in the garden, and we're hoping to make that into an entire apiary, which is 3 beehives to make a sustainable apiary. So we've been applying to different grants around UVA. It's entirely student-funded and student-run, which just means that we apply for a lot of grants and hope to get them to keep our garden running. And it's also, in the past year, we've seen a ton of cool agricultural research projects there. A Piedmont, Virginia Community College professor, PVCC for short, you'll probably hear that slang a lot while you're here, is running a class out there on like agroecology, agricultural sustainability, and he's experimenting with some cabbages out there. And then a professor in the biology department did a sunflower experiment over the summer. Every time they came out, I kindly referred to them as the sunflower men coming into the garden, and it was really quite a sight. They had an entire quarter of our acre plot fully cultivated in sunflowers. So it's just like a mass of sunflowers. It was beautiful. And they were sunflowers from the time that they first sprout up out of the ground. They actually track the sun with their sprout or with their head once they're in full bloom. And so they were sort of studying like the genetic basis for that, and why is that they know to follow the sun and then reset at night. And in addition to the exciting research opportunities happening in the kitchen garden, we also offer a CSA. So I know you guys are in Brown, but I'm assuming you have a kitchen maybe in Brown, at least.
We discuss the kitchen and its condition all the time.
Oh, okay, okay. So maybe not a functional kitchen,
It's a
but
functional kitchen.
okay.
It's way too functional, probably.
Yeah.
It's the cleanup of the kitchen.
Yeah. Well, we do have a CSA program because,
What's that mean? Yeah.
so CSA is community supported agriculture. It's sort of becoming this like posh word, just like sustainability or green is around the country and the world today. It's basically a farm share that you can buy into, and you get a weekly large box of fresh produce that's been handpicked by students. And you get delicious seasonal vegetables, and you know who's growing it, and it's a fun, if you can't come out to the garden, then it's a fun way to connect with the garden at least. But that being said, if you're not interested in the CSA, on CSA mornings, we'll have a ton of volunteers come out to the garden because we usually harvest a lot in excess, and anything that's not going into the CSA, we give to all of our volunteers. And that goes for any time we're out at the garden. There's no pay for your work, but we send you home with lots of really delicious vegetables, which I think is much better.